Look up. The sky is blue. Look at the ocean, at somebody's blue eyes, at a bluebird on a branch. Blue is everywhere. It is, by far, the world's most popular color, chosen as the favorite by nearly 40% of people across the entire planet. And yet, here's the thing almost nobody tells you. Almost none of it is actually blue. The sky isn't blue. The ocean isn't blue. That bluebird, not blue. Your blue eyes, there is no blue in them at all. Blue might be the single biggest lie your eyes tell you every single day. Because blue is, by a huge margin, the rarest color in the natural world. It is so rare that for most of human history, people may not have even been able to see it. So take a deep breath. We are diving into the color blue, and the deeper we go, the stranger it gets. Let's start with something that sounds impossible. Ancient people didn't have a word for blue. In 1858, a scholar named William Gladstone went through Homer's Odyssey and Iliad, line by line, and noticed something haunting. Homer describes the sea as wine dark. He calls honey green. He calls sheep violet. In thousands of lines, he never once calls anything blue, because the word simply didn't exist yet. And it's not just the Greeks. When linguists studied languages all over the world, they found a pattern. Cultures name colors in almost the same order. First, just dark and light. Then red. Then yellow and green. And blue, almost always, comes dead last. Some languages still don't have a separate word for it at all. The reason is simple and a little eerie. There is almost nothing naturally blue to point at and name. No blue food, no blue animals you could catch, no blue plants. Without a blue thing in your hand, you never needed a blue word. Okay, but the sky. The sky is obviously massively blue. Except, it isn't. There is no blue paint up there. What you're seeing is a trick of physics, called scattering. Sunlight looks white, but it's secretly every color mixed together. When it hits our atmosphere, the air scatters the shorter, bluer wavelengths in every direction, far more than the others. So blue light gets bounced all across the sky and rained down into your eyes from every angle. The sky isn't blue. The sky is colorless air, scattering blue light at you. Want proof? Leave the atmosphere, and the sky instantly turns black, even with the sun blazing right there. And this same trick explains sunsets. When the sun is low, its light travels through so much more air that all the blue gets scattered away before it reaches you, leaving only the deep reds and oranges behind. Blue light is also why the ocean looks blue. The water absorbs red light and scatters blue, plus it reflects that big bluish sky. The two biggest blue things in your life are both basically optical illusions. Surely the animals are really blue though. The blue jay, the peacock, that impossibly blue morpho butterfly. Nope. Almost every blue animal on Earth is lying to you too. Here's a test you can actually do. Find a blue feather from a blue jay and crush it. The blue vanishes. You're left with dull grey-brown dust. That's because the feather has no blue pigment in it whatsoever. Its color comes from microscopic structures that bounce light around and reflect blue back at you. Crush the structure, and the blue is just gone. The same is true for the blue morpho butterfly. Grind up its dazzling wing, and you get brown powder. The peacock, the kingfisher, the blue-eyed everything. It's nearly all structural color, tiny architecture, not paint. In fact, out of all the animals on the planet, only a tiny handful, like one obscure butterfly and a single fish, are known to make a true blue pigment of their own. Real blue is so hard for life to build that almost nothing even bothers. Everything else just fakes it with light. Which brings us to a deeply personal one. If you have blue eyes, they aren't blue either. There is no blue pigment in any human eye. None. Brown eyes have brown pigment called melanin. Blue eyes simply have very little of it. And the blue you see is again just light scattering inside the iris. The exact same trick as the sky. Take a blue-eyed person into a different light, and the shade shifts, because there was never any blue there to begin with. But here's where it gets wild. Every single person on Earth with blue eyes appears to share one common ancestor. Scientists traced it to a single tiny genetic mutation that happened in just one human being, somewhere around 6,000 to 10,000 years ago. Before that person, it's believed nobody on the planet had blue eyes. After them, the gene spread. So if your eyes are blue, you are, in a strange and literal way, distantly related to every other blue-eyed person alive. You're all part of one accidental family that started with a single mistake in a single strand of DNA. Because real blue is so rare in nature. For most of history, making blue was brutally expensive. The most prized blue ever, ultramarine, came from grinding a single semi-precious stone, lapis lazuli, mined almost entirely from one remote region of Afghanistan. And it was absurdly inefficient. Crushing a full kilogram of the raw mineral might yield only about 30 grams of usable pigment. The result? During the Renaissance, ultramarine blue was literally more expensive than gold. Painters treated it like treasure. They used it so sparingly, and it was so valuable that artists reserved it almost exclusively for the single most important figure in a painting, the robes of the Virgin Mary. Patrons would write the exact amount of ultramarine into the contract, like specifying how much gold to use. A splash of blue wasn't just a color choice, it was a flex of pure wealth. For centuries, blue was the color of the holy, the royal, and the obscenely rich, simply because the universe makes it so hard to get. So, humans did what humans do. We tried to fake it ourselves. The very first synthetic pigment ever created by people, in all of history, was a blue. The ancient Egyptians cooked up Egyptian blue, over 4,500 years ago, just to have a blue that didn't cost a fortune. That's how badly we wanted this color. And our hunt for new blues never stopped. Here's the kicker. The most recent new blue pigment was discovered by total accident in 2009. A team at Oregon State University was heating manganese compounds in a furnace at around 1200 degrees, researching electronics, nothing to do with color. They opened the furnace, and instead of what they expected, they pulled out a sample of the most vivid, brilliant blue anyone had seen in 200 years. They named it YMN Blue, after its ingredients. The first genuinely new blue pigment in 2 centuries, and we found it by mistake, looking for something completely different. Now we go somewhere stranger and very real. For generations, deep in the hills of Kentucky, there lived a family with bright blue skin. Not bluish, not cold, genuinely blue. They were the Fugates, and they weren't a legend. It started around 1820, when a man named Martin Fugate settled near a creek and married a woman who, by sheer chance, carried the same incredibly rare recessive gene that he did. That gene causes a condition called methemoglobinemia, where the blood struggles to carry oxygen properly and turns a dark bluish color, which shows right through the skin. Because the family lived isolated, with a small dating pool, the rare gene kept meeting itself, generation after generation, and blue children kept being born. Some Fugates were described as blue as Lake Louise. The condition was mostly harmless, and many lived long, healthy lives. Eventually, as roads came and the family spread out, the gene got diluted, and the blue faded away. But for over a century, in one corner of America, there were people who were truly blue. Here's one you can check right now. Go look in your kitchen. There is almost certainly nothing naturally blue in it. Think about it. Blueberries? Look closely. They're really a deep purple. So-called blue corn, blue potatoes, all purple. In all of nature, genuinely blue food is astonishingly close to non-existent. And scientists think this is exactly why blue food looks so unappetizing to us. For millions of years, our ancestors almost never encountered blue food, so our brains may have learned that blue can signal spoiled, moldy, or poisonous. Some studies suggest blue can act as a natural appetite suppressant, which is why you'll rarely see it inside a restaurant. And yet, despite blue being rare, illusory, expensive, and even slightly off-putting on a plate, when you ask people their favorite color, the whole world says the same thing. Blue wins, almost everywhere, across cultures, across continents, by a landslide. We are obsessed with the one color nature almost never gives us. And now, the bottom of the iceberg, where it gets genuinely mind-bending. Here's the truth. Blue, the actual color, does not exist out in the world at all. Out there is only light, waves of different lengths bouncing around. Blue is not a property of those waves. Blue is something your brain invents when a certain wavelength hits your eye. The color only exists inside your head. And we know perception shapes this because language does too. Remember how some cultures barely separate blue from green? Researchers found people who lump them into a single category, sometimes called GRU, and they can struggle to quickly tell shades apart that look obviously different to you, while easily spotting greens that all look identical to us. The words you have can change the colors you notice. So the sky isn't blue. Your eyes aren't blue. The bird isn't blue. The blueberry isn't blue. And the color blue itself isn't even out there. It's a beautiful, shared hallucination, painted onto reality by your own mind. So, the next time you look up at that big blue sky, just remember, there's no blue up there. No blue in the ocean. No blue in your eyes. No blue in the bird. And depending on how you think about it, maybe no blue anywhere at all, except inside the strange color-inventing machine behind your eyes. We took the most ordinary color in the world and found out it might be the most extraordinary. That was the Color Blue Iceberg, here on the Berg. If you made it all the way to the bottom, subscribe, because we go this deep on something new every week. And tell me down in the comments, what should we dive into next?